Now, next, we have something coming from Florence, be online. We have Professor Gabriele Capecchi, Capecchi, and the title is Marco Polo and Citrus Fruits, the Varietal Wealth and the Therapeutic Uses of the Chenpi, from Giovanni de Marignolli de Cosimo de Medici. So without further ado, we welcome Professor Gabriele Capecchi. Welcome.
These brief considerations wish to express on two vexate questions relating to the time of Marco Polo, namely whether, as some dogmatic positions of the period, according to principles of symmetry, these brief considerations wish to express on two vexate questions relating to the time of Marco Polo, namely whether, as some dogmatic positions of the period, according to the principles of symmetry, would have it, that is, if, on the opposite side of the European world, there were only West lands, but, above all, if the Polian narrative was a fake taken from Persian or similar texts. Marco Polo's naturalistic account is confirmed by a late meeting with Pietro d'Abano, which took place presumably during the summer of 1303. The scientist also represents the Aristotelian intermediary for the interpretation of these exotic territories that are now detailed to be crowded with mirabilia, just as peoples, animals, and plains, rather than starting from the river Ganges. Thus taught Dante Alighieri in Quaestio de Aqua et Terra, 1321, and to be ordered according to Theophrastus. The divisement du monde, in fact, relates to the West known to the Venetian, also the botanical varieties in common with the homeland, then the varieties similar and comparable even from a literary point of view, is singular the description of the unicorn, actually it is a Sumatran rhinoceros, made in the Conciliator Differentiarum, or completely unknown. It will again be to the scientists who will support the Polian text, placing it in relation to the first letter from Asia of Johannes Cordelarius, that is, the Franciscan Giovanni da Montecorvino, on apostolic mission to Yuan Empire since 1994, as we will explain in the second part of this contribution. Many were the gaps in the text of Rustichello, just as the absence of references to tea. Now, some about citrus fruits. During his journey, Marco Polo has found some varieties of citrus fruit, many of which are misunderstood or unknown to the West. On the letter A, the Adam's apple, Citrus aurata, is undoubtedly among the first, described in the Persian city of Kamadi, actually Kamadin, the 1,000-year-old archaeological site of Giraffe, as apple of paradise. The fruit is mentioned in the Historia Hierosolimitana, 1223-1224, by Jacques de Vitry, at the time Bishop of Acre, in reference to the characteristic furrowed pericarpium believed to be Adam's bite in Eden. On the letter B is the province of Fuzhou, in the territory called the Manzi, southern China, by Marco Polo, an endemic production territory for numerous varieties, just as oranges, Citrus sinensis, mandarins, Citrus reticulata, and pomelos, Citrus maxima, already mentioned in the Yugong, or Book of Tributes to Imperial Yu, about 2070 before Christ. On the letter C is the kingdom of Lar, corresponding to the Indian province of Gujarat, on the endemic area of production of citron, Citrus metica, in proto-historic times referred to the Indus civilization. I have used the text coming from the Henry Yule's version, and we have here the whole text of about this theme. And now we present here a horticultural image of the Adam's apple or Citrus aurata, together with a botanical table of the same subject from the medical text, Discorsi su Dioscoride, edited by the naturalist Pietro Andrea Mattioli in 1573. In terms of taxon, the apple of paradise is, however, interpreted differently by various 14th century scholars. That is, Jacopo da Verona, Niccolò da Poggibonsi, Leonardo Frescobaldi, as referring to the banana fruit, Musa paradisiaca. The term Musa came from the Arabic word mouse and considered by them to be the real reason for the scene in Eden. And now some about cultivation and spread of sorghum in China. This cereal was already widespread in China during the Neolithic, but compared to its remote diffusion during the Middle Ages, it was endemic, in particular in the Kejianfu area, now Xiganfu. These are some words about sorghum by Marco Polo. Sorghum is among the cereals, together with wheat, comparable to the Italian production present in Marco Polo. Considering the utility of use in the hypothesized variety sorghum bicolor, both for human feed and for animal fodder. This is an image about modern cultivation of sorghum in China. And now some about rice wine and other alcoholic beverages in China. The Polian text favors a description of rice-based drinks, much appreciated by Mongolian for their alcohol content, about 20%, alongside the traditional use of kumis, fermented mare's milk. At the cartographic level, the main endemic production territories are exposed here, just as the town of Kambaluk, Khendu, Yachi, Wochen, Kolomen. This is some text about rice wine. Together with the production of rice liquors, often mixed with cane sugar and spices, there are references to other types of wine obtained through the use of dates or wheat, also mediated in the Han era from the Fergana before 160 before Christ, a Hellenistic population of Greek Bactrian lineage with Persian strains of Vitis vinifera. The image shows the scheme of the organized cultivation of sorghum and millet in China during the Neolithic period. And here is some about edible fruits varieties. With regard to fruit production, the text mentions in particular the city of Kinsai, or Hangzhou, now Hangzhou, in the Mansi territory. Marco Polo adopts a comparative principle with European fruit growing, assimilating to this variety of peaches and quinces, Pseudosidonia sidensis, of robust side, and is similar from Western specimens. For production purposes, there are references to the plantation of white mulberry, Morus alba, close attributable to silk weaving, and of Brusonetia papyrifera, a tree belonging to the Moraceae family, in use for the Chinese production of paper, according to procedure invented by Cai Lun around 105 after death for the Han Dynasty. This is an image of Sidonia sinensis. And some about varieties of pepper and other spice. In the Polian cartography, there are numerous toponyms referring to pepper, both for marketing in Kinsai and Zaiten, and for harvesting in the different varieties in Java, Sumatra, Gujarat. And I remember the words of Odorico da Porterone from Malabar and Giovanni de Marignolli, who writes, in Ceylon, nascitur piper totius orbis. Marco Polo does not distinguish between black pepper, piper nigrum, or long pepper, piper longum, nor on processing in the form of the white pepper. For spicy taste, the text also includes references to the galangal root, Alpinia galanga, and ginger as gingiber officinale, outer space, just like the cinnamon, or saffron, foods, just like the pistachio or Pistacia vera, essences, camphor, and pharmacological supplements, just as rhubarb, and verzino, bianche soppen. Particular space is also reserved for textile fibers, just as cotton, and bambaja, just as the Bombax malabaricum. In the circumstance, I'll present you the miniature taken from the Livre des Meravilles et autres récits de voyage et de textes sur le Rhin, a manuscript datable to the period of 1410-1412, which reproduced the harvesting of peppercorns, perhaps in Malabar or rather in Ceylon, for the physiognomic characters of the workers. And now some about bamboo and other construction timber. From a cartographic point of view, only the Polian site of Chandu, that is Shangtu, Samuel Coleridge's Xanadu, is represented as a function of the new summer capital built by Kublai after 1271. In reality, endemic territories of the Bambusa arundinacea variety considered here are mainly the original coastal province of Zhejiang, together with the inland province of Sichuan. Until the 19th century, immense woodlands were located on the sub-Himalayan slopes along the Chinese side. Marco Polo adopts the term cane or canna in Italian in the text. The first author to use the term bamboo will be the Florentine merchant Filippo Sassetti after 1583 from Goa in Portuguese India. The plant is just one of the botanical examples described by the Venetian among the China's building materials, especially in use to the shipbuilding of the Manzi, such as the Chinese spruce or Pinus sinensis, synonymous with Pinus massoniana. Sometimes the planking is connected by coconuts, cords, or sun. The description dwells rather on the structural characteristic of the imperial buildings, the permanent marble palace, and the Zung Tian or pavilion of the palms, built between 1252 and 1256, with prefabricated and removable elements by Chinese architect Liu Bingzong, together with the related park. With regard to the Zungtian Palace in its representation, we offer you the miniature of the Master of Egerton, taken from the late medieval English codex, the Book of Wonders of the World. And now something about Zeyton. In this cartographic find attached to the Yule version of the Polian text, the geographical position of Zeyton, Huangzu, can be deduced. And now follows the Polian text about Zeyton. During the Five Dynasties period, Governor Liu Kongxiao, 906-962, rebuilt the city walls of Guangzhou and surrounded them with shrubs called Tiger's Claw, Erythrina variegata, in Chinese Chitong. A nickname later extended to the entire site, arranged on the hills around the haven to determine a particular naturalistic effect visible from the sea at a great distance. And now some about hospital activities in Zayton and the Chenpi principle. In 1308, a group of Franciscans moved to Zayton. Already in 1294, Friar Giovanni da Montecorvino had founded the mission of Cambalik, capital of China under the Yuan dynasty, to carry out apostolic task, although the Armenian community, mostly dedicated to the trade, had been prospering in the area for some time. A lady of that ethnic group donated to the Franciscans a church and a convent, built some time before at her own expense, in which, by virtue of the powers granted to him by the Pope, Giovanni da Montecorvino erected as dioceses, appointing Gerardo Albuini as the first bishop. After 1318, Friar Andrea da Perugia built a church and a monastery in the urban area with the permission of the emperor, capable of accommodating at least 20 new religious. It was probably also necessary to integrate the complex with an hospital for the poor, being able to make use of material contribution from the Khan, just like those Kublai Khan when he was living. It seems logical to conjecture that the Franciscan hospital used during the missionary activity in Zayton until the eviction from the Ming dynasty around 1370, the active drug ingredient in use at the TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, more reassuring for the local people themselves. And among these, the Chenpi, dried pericarpium of mandarin orange, and other similar citrus fruits. Below, we can therefore observe the structural scheme of a citrus fruit. On the diffusion of Chenpi in the TCM, reflect on this table were the different therapies, including their calcification, applicable through the active ingredient, and the related medical manuals of the time are compared. By means of pink, the text in use until the presence of Marco Polo are distinguished. By means and the other color, the text in use and the expulsion of the Franciscans around 1370. And now some about Zayton's ship traffic. In Marco Polo's text, the impression aroused by the port of Zayton was really strong, even more significant if in relation to the traveler's Venetian birth, and by the enormous presence of ships and goods. As late in 1345, Ibn Battuta could describe a traffic, naval traffic, equal to 1.5 million boats until the decadence imposed by the new Ming government. The proposed image, a miniature taken from the Livre du Grand Cam in Bodleian library, nevertheless testify to the emotional impact of the ancient observer. Mostly oceanic, the trade routes in transit from the port of Zayton come from the strong impulse attributed to this coastal center by the Song dynasty in the period 960 1279 in a defensive key through a strong naval deterrent, as suggested by the proposed reconstruction of the roads, including land. In this communication, the reference to Zayton does not face only the journeying home of Marco Polo in 1292, but to the relations between the local Franciscan mission and the mother house in Italy. However, we should necessarily ask ourselves what kind of naval vessel Marco Polo used departing from Zaitun. In 1292, his ship was included in a group of 14 units and from other Chinese ports during the missions for the Khan. Carrying out official duty.
Request Professor to finish within 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, thank you. It's likely that the usage of Shengung junks developed from the Song Empire, solid and advanced technological boats, just as these used by Admiral Zheng starting in 1403. It's likewise probable that the princes have other types of boats to convey missionaries, goods, and materials to and from Zaitun, since the international effects of the Pax Mongolica, we can suppose the use of commercial dhows. In the 14th century, the study of religious themes deriving from missionary activity in Asia flourished in Pisa, and therefore the transmission of the simple ones adopted for conventional medicine in the Middle Ages is not surprising. So, although we have Paolo Boccone, botanist of Cosimo III, Great Duke of Tuscany, found an unusual specimen of citrus fruit at the Franciscan Viridiarium in Pisa of Santa Maria in Fossabanda. And now some about the Chinese fruits, Chinese citrus in Italy in 17th century. Boccone's research, however, is not isolated in the Grand Duchy of Tuscany, but resumes a broader interest of the Medici dynasty in citrus collecting, although already undertaken with the Pope Leo X in the early 16th century. However, it was Grand Duke Cosimo III who gave the collection a definitive look, entrusting the naturalistic painter Bartolomeo Bimbi with the task of representing the specimens in a series of 4 large panels, completed no later than 1715. In the first painting, entitled Arance, Chinotti, Limoni e Lumie, at number 13 is represented the pollen citrus fruit, said Adam apples or apple of paradise, so said by Florentine gardeners, just as in binomial systematics such as Citrus aurata. And then, and I conclude, a similar collecting and phylotic path had one of the fruits used in the TCM to obtain Chenpi, or the Liucheng Mandarin orange, Citrus sinensis Liucheng. The original production area was part of the ancient Menzi kingdom described by Marco Polo, and current county Liucheng Xi'an is still considered in the endemic area of those citrus fruits. We have here the table from Bimbi represented the fruit in the 4th panel, arance, bergamotti, cedri, limoni, e lumie, also executed in 1715, at number 20 with the empirical name of arancio con le foglie gialle, orange with yellow leaves. Both fruits are listed in the inventories of the Boboli Gardens in Florence during the Laurent period and after the unification of Italy. Thank you very much.